Paul Tracy, who's had an up-and-down weekend. Yesterday in qualifying, he was disgusted with the car. This morning in the warm-up, he was happy with the car, and he's had a good race.
Yeah, they made the car softer because what would happen is he would pound the curbs, and although the car had a lot of grip because it was stiffer, anytime he'd pound over the curbs, it would just fly through the air and he'd lose all kinds of time. That's why he was so frustrated. So they have since softened up the car, and you could see when he rode the curbs there, the car was pretty smooth across it.
Those two cars you see there, those are Cristiano D'Amata and Bruno Junqueira. The space between them has remained relatively stable the last several laps. In just a couple of laps, though, Junqueira is going to have to drop off that fight and drop out a third and move into the pits for his final pit stop, they expect. Tracy is on the same schedule and will dip out of fourth place into the pits. And Franchitti, the same thing a couple of laps from now. There's Jimmy Vasser, who currently runs in sixth position. He's also due a pit stop, as is Scott Dixon in the seventh spot. Tony Kanaan, running in fifth, will be out for a while, and so will Cristiano D'Amata, who will in 11 laps or less.
Whoa, look out! Whoa!
Yow! Straight through the corner.
I hope he was planning to pit.
Yeah, well, we looked down there. His people were out very close as he hit the brake zone for pit in, but his people were ready for him. It was planned that Jimmy Vasser was headed there.
Well, there is another answer to our question. Not only do you gain time leaving the pits, you gain time entering the pits, because you can brake later when you're going on to pit road than you have to for the chicane. What a great example that was. He almost just drove up the back of Kanaan because he could brake later on the way to pit road. That's why these guys are getting in and out so fast.
Quick pit stop for Jimmy Vasser, and now he puts the throttle down and heads back onto the racing surface. In a minute, Paul Tracy will be out there. We may have the battle of Vasser-Tracy that was joined a couple of times earlier on in the race, rejoined here in just a few moments. That's Christian Fittipaldi.
And Christian has hot tires.
Yep, he's got warm tires. Jimmy doesn't. And he's got the position through the first of the twisty bits in the back. In fact, he draws away from him pretty briskly. And Michael Andretti also right there, and so is Shinji Nakano. Andretti looks down to the inside. It's not quite there as the road is blocked, but there's another brake zone coming up that might be enticing to Mike.
Well, you know, it doesn't take that many corners to get, but look at Nakano. Nakano knows that Andretti, now see, Andretti may or may not be thinking about passing, but he was going to try it anyway because he didn't want Nakano to get him.
Nakano still has hot tires. He was out there. He may be able to pull the same thing against Vasser when they get to the hairpin right here if he's close enough.
Man, look how late Vasser brakes.
Mike lights him up. Vasser carries it in deep, and Nakano doesn't have a chance to get by him. So he's going to be caught out of those that were still on the track with warm tires. It looked like Vasser got enough heat to hold him off at least.
I think Jimmy could. He's possibly close enough to try another move here on Michael, but boy, was I impressed how late Vasser's been able to break that car and still get it turned.
So that battle continues on, although it may stabilize here in just a second. Though Nakano's got an idea or two, and here comes the race leader. Dario Franchitti is on pit road for what will be, everyone expects, his final pit stop before the 80 laps are done. He's 18 laps from the end, so he'll have plenty of fuel. Let's go to Don.
Dario Franchitti is up on the blocks. This will be his last stop, as you mentioned, Chris. Tires are on, fuel hose coming out. Now, with just a split-second delay, it looked to be about the 9-second range, and Paul Tracy will be next in line. Chris?
Junqueira also on pit road, as we had expected. Here comes Dario in front. On pit out, Junqueira getting his service. The four tires are on. Todd, you're there.
And it's in Brucho. Junqueira less than 10 seconds, but maybe not quite as quick as they wanted. He's been getting encouragement from Chip Ganassi on the radio. Chip's been telling him, hey, go get him.
Yeah, but that was a great stop, Todd. That was much quicker than what we saw for Dario. Now, of course, there's a big gap between the two on the racetrack, but that stop may make a big difference later on for Junqueira.
Paul Tracy, meantime, has gone into the pits and is already on his way out, having received the service, and we'll wait for it all to shuffle out, and we'll give you the standings, who gained what and where they gained it. Here's that fast piece of pavement straight in to the middle of that complex of turns called Casino down there, where they go straight to the corner, and those that are on the racetrack can't. There's the difference right there.
Yeah, that's a great example of the shortcut that's taken. Scott Dixon getting out ahead of Andretti while Christian pits.
And they were side by side in relative position when they hit pit out, and then Scott Dixon was, what, 100 yards maybe ahead of him when he got through the corner. Big difference there. So Right now it is D'Amata on the point, then Frank Keaty, who's had his last service, Junqueira, who's had his last service, Tony Kanaan in fourth, who needs to do another pit stop, Michel Jourdain, who is in fifth, needs to do another pit stop. Paul Tracy runs sixth, but he's had his last pit stop. Dixon in seventh, but he's had his last pit stop. Michael Andretti is eighth position, but he'll be in this lap around. Then Vassar, who's done for the day in terms of pit stops, and Takagi, who still has to have a pit stop. That rounds out the top 10, so there's still a lot to be said before this is determined. Dario Franchitti was up by 14 seconds when he came in. He came out of the pits 13 behind Cristiano D'Amata. So a 27-second swing between those two in positions 1 and 2.
Well, at least we finally confirmed our numbers.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about this morning,
Yeah.
you and I. So now the waiting game really is underway. Can Cristiano D'Amata get far enough away? There's Michael Andretti, as we had anticipated, coming in for what will be his final pit stop as they put it up on the jacks. 4 tires, as they must, will go on. And Don, you got that? Todd?
Michael Andretti in the 10-second range. No changes to the car. He's admitted it's kind of a mediocre day for him. He's just trying to squeeze as much out of it as he can, Chris.
Well, he'll get a couple of points, if not a few more than that, but not a contender for the win. There goes Adrian Fernandez back on. Here comes Mike out ahead of Christian Fittipaldi. So from
Tora, it looks like.
Yeah, Tora Takagi's back
wrong.
in. He had the penalty a few moments ago. Had a nice strategy going, it seemed. Could have had a top 5 finish. It was certainly a possibility, but it looks like that's all gone awry. There is the race leader, Cristiano D'Amata.
But you know, I think that Junqueira has a problem. He just went by the front straightaway, and I believe that Tony Kanaan has picked up 3rd place because Junqueira, the engine sounded very sour.
Well, Tony Kanaan listed in 3rd, and here comes Paul Tracy onto the front straightaway. While at the hairpin, the race leader, Cristiano D'Amata, moves in, and there's Takagi, the ejected driver there. A beautiful day ongoing. Behind him, the car you saw, that was Michel Jourdain. At the other end, we have Christian Fittipaldi working on Michael Andretti at the moment. Also active is Alex Tagliani in that serial of 3 cars, but losing space. Tagliani's had a difficult day. His gearbox, we don't think, is working properly. He's been off a couple of times. Now here comes Christian. Takes a peek down to the inside of Michael, but he's not able to carry it into the braking zone deep enough, and he tucks back in.
Of course, former teammates, so they know each other well.
Into the corner they go. And the carousel complex. Don Martin with Tora Takagi.
Well, he's out of the race, and the brakes are the problem. And on this course, obviously, you can't stop. You can't go, Chris.
Now, it's the first time with definitive evidence in terms of brakes, but we certainly think that there are some that have had to fight that all day long on this circuit.
And Bruno Junqueira is coming down the front straightaway now, and that car is not going to last long. That sounds very, very sick.
Still listed in 4th position, but he's probably going to give that up before too long. Paul Tracy is just about sharing the same straightaway with him now and closing fast. The last trip around was 1:35 for Junqueira as opposed to Tracy's 1:21. So Paul will pick him up fairly soon. Christian Fittipaldi, meantime, continues to hound Michael Andretti in that fight for 9th position in the event. Mike trying to save as many points as he can, as is Christian.
Oh, and he went to the fuel mixture. Oh, they want him to pit. He's thinking, man, I don't want to pit. I'm just about to get after Michael.
He didn't that time through.
Oh, you know what that is? That was the team radio for his teammate D'Amata. So now we know that D'Amata will be in next time around.
Okay, well, he had as many as 5 laps to stay out if he wanted to, but he chooses, or his team is choosing, to come apparently a little bit sooner than that. A critical pit stop. Is it the most critical of the year? Maybe not, but certainly it's huge in terms of the championship, huge in terms of this race as the team now has the equipment over the wall. We wait for Cristiano D'Amata to come back and do his 4th pit stop. Can he save it? He stretched it out on the lighter fuel load, and now we got a lot of smoke from Junqueira's car on the straightaway.
Well, he's not paying for that engine, so he's going to stay out until it blows.
Paul Tracy behind him can see that trail of smoke, and he's closing fast.
It sounds really bad.
Cristiano D'Amata, meantime, should be around in just a little bit.
Now he should come out of the pits, D'Amata in second spot. So, you know, even with the strategy that's questionable, it's a pretty good day.
There he is, and he's into the pits. He comes in with an 18-second lead over Dario Franchitti. Let's go to the pits and cover it.
Cristiano D'Amata making, as you guys mentioned, his 4th stop. Crew will give him fuel and tires and do their best to make it as quick a stop as possible. Hits the marks right on, and the crew goes to work. A lot of brake dust coming off those 4 tires, of course, as they make the change. 4 tires are secure. Fuel is in. He's down and away. A little over 9 seconds. We'll see if it works out for Cristiano D'Amata.
Okay, there Dario is already in turn number 1, so sure enough, D'Amata's going to slot into position 2. And I would say that Dario's, well, you could maybe just see Dario. I'd say that he's going to have a bit of a lead. That's going to be tough for D'Amata to chase down.
We understand Junqueira has pulled off the course, and there was some liquid coming from the engine compartment. So he went to a safe haven and cleared the race course. Franchitti leads. D'Amata trails. The gap is about 5 seconds. We'll be back in just a moment. Bruno Junqueira out of the race. He's brought the car, the disabled car, from the Ganassi stable back to the pits and stepped away. And he had such a marvelous day going. A good finish in the offing, and then the engine went soft. We knew it was coming for several laps.
Yeah, I mean, it was something you could certainly hear. We're panning back, and wow, the interval has definitely closed down for Cristiano D'Amata, but it has a lot more to do with what had happened on the racetrack. And Fernandez into the wall.
Adrian Fernandez misses the corner, the kink there, and he has hit the left side of the car against the wall. And the local yellow is displayed. We'll have to wait and see what they do on the main flag stand on the front straightaway and where that car comes to a rest. We saw flashing by there Cristiano D'Amata. Now the gap between first and second last time through was 6.1 seconds to Dario Franchitti, and we're going to get a full course yellow as the Adrian Fernandez machine, the driver injured in Vancouver in the late running, hits the wall here in Montreal in the late going, and that had to sting a lot because he's already a very sore man. And there's fire underneath the engine compartment there, burning somewhat freely as they wait for the service vehicles to get on the scene. Let's go downstairs to Todd.
With Bruno Junqueira, your day came to a very quick end, Bruno. What was it that broke?
A very long end. I almost raced whole race again and had a problem with the car. Couldn't finish, very frustrated. I was going to the end of the race, not finish the race. That's very frustrating.
Another frustrating end for Bruno Junqueira. Great opportunity for him to really leapfrog Patrick Carpentier in the standings goes away.
I see what happened here. There it is. He just went through the corner, Jan, and slapped the left rear first, and then the car is disabled, and he guides it down to a stop. You see the wing shorn away. The fire has been attended to. We saw flashes of that activity. The right front off the ground, and Adrian was out and actually directing the firemen through some of their exercise to get that extinguished, but apparently it's been done now.
Now, you heard me mention that Dario Franchitti did have to do some avoiding action here, and you can see in front of him there was a spin for Shinji Nakano. He had to lock up the brakes, go around the outside, didn't lose any track position but lost time. But now that there's a full course caution on the upper right, there was D'Amata, but because now it's full course yellow, it made no difference.
They'll bunch them up and then they'll dash to the finish. We're working leader lap 72 of the scheduled 80 in Montreal. Don't leave us. Adrian Fernandez has had a difficult last month. First Vancouver, toward the end of the race, tangled up in this mess, and he was heavily into the wall and had a fractured pelvis and huge bruises across his body. And at Mid-Ohio, he skipped the race. At Road America, he was able to perform, but this is the condition he was in, Jan Bika says. He climbed out of the car at the end of one of the exercises there, the crutch on hand. A great deal of pain then, a great deal of pain since, and he reported to us this morning that he was hurting, and he's been taking treatments and all kinds of medical help all along every day after every session. And just a few moments ago, he slaps the wall again. Not as hard this time, and he did climb out under his own power, but certainly